you remember the first time you stepped into an arena to witness a collision of good versus evil. The excitement in the air. The roar of the crowd. And of course, the blood. It's time to relive those memories big time. A historical wrestling lesson taught by your professors, the legendary Terry Sullivan and Supermouth Dave DRASON. RoX-TV and International Big Time Wrestling present Big Time Memories.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us again. I'm Terry Sullivan, this is Dave DRASON, and we're back with another exciting edition of Big Time Memories. Actually, we might have to retitle this episode Championship Wrestling Memories, because Championship Wrestling was the name of the TV show that Dick the Bruiser did. And on the program today, you know, we've done all the big stars, the major stars, most all of the main eventers, but we thought, you know, there's so many other people besides the main eventers who are so integral and essential to put together a full card and who have come in over the years for a long time, a short time. But the names that people remember, but maybe they don't get their own show, it's time for us to pay tribute to these guys, the supporting card, it were.
Yeah, and these are the supporting guys for the Dick the Bruiser promotion that he ran at Olympia Stadium.
Yeah. A
lot of these guys worked for the Sheik at one time or another, but you know, we're going to take a step back and look at all the guys that worked for the WWA Championship Wrestling show that Dick the Bruiser ran at Olympia Stadium.
Yeah, as well in his territory. Wrestling at that time was not a national endeavor where everybody went everywhere. You had a certain number of wrestlers who landed in a certain territory and would stay there for 6 months, a year, 5 years, however long it was cool for them until they wanted to move on, make more money, start all over somewhere else. That's the way the business was at that point in time.
Okay. Well, you know, starting off, you know, we did, you know, a two-part episode on Dick the Bruiser. So, you know, we don't need to bring his name up right now or give any facts and figures. You can go back and watch that, you know, two-part episode, which, you know, we've been getting great response about, great comments.
Absolutely.
You know, so let's talk about other guys that, you know, were involved in his promotion.
Okay.
Let me start out with his business partner, Wilbur Snyder.
Yeah, Wilbur and Dick the Bruiser started off as opponents, fierce opponents, because Snyder was the good-looking All-American guy, and Bruiser was the pretty much exact opposite of that. But yeah, Snyder was a co-owner from Santa Monica, California, football background with the Edmonton Eskimos of the Canadian Football League. A little bit of a crossroads for him. What am I going to do? He says, stay with football or go with wrestling. Well, he made $8,000 in a year playing football. Wrestling in the off season, he made $25,000, which would today be $250,000. Not bad for a kid just out of college. So yeah, he went with football, got some network television exposure, which made him a nationally known name and commodity. Beat Vern Gagne for the U.S. title in Chicago, which was something which further put him over as a top contender. As I mentioned, he had the big money matches with Bruiser, went to Japan a lot. Known for the abdominal stretch.
Yeah.
Remember that, boy. Wilbur gets that abdominal stretch on you, and that's it. One of his bad habits, smoked 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. That may be why he also is a member of the club of people who died in his 60s. Who knows? But basically, he had titles pretty much wherever he went. In the summer of '82, he sold his interest in the WWA to Dick the Bruiser and retired to Florida. He passed away on Christmas Day, 1991, just 8 weeks after Bruiser.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah, great guy, great athlete.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, 2.5 packs of cigarettes. Mercy sakes. I bet you he had bad breath and yellow teeth. Another guy in his promotion. How about the Crusher?
The Crusher. Oh, you know, the Crusher's got a statue in South Milwaukee.
Yeah.
We've got some pictures of that. That's how well he was thought of. And in fact, from what I read, he was born and lived his entire life in South Milwaukee. So they really thought a lot of him there, and the statue's really cool. He's got a beer barrel over his shoulder. In fact, they used to say that in his workouts he would run along the waterfront with a beer barrel under each hand.
I'll be there.
And then one of the TV announcers would say, "Yeah, and by the time he ended, the barrels would be empty." Yeah. So he liked his running, and he says that was his workout: running with the beer barrels, and then dancing the beer barrel polka all night with his dollies.
Yep.
Yeah, but he was from Minneapolis. Another one trained by Vern Gagne. I'm sorry. He was not trained by Vern Gagne. That's somebody else here. I'm getting out of order here. His success, similar to Bruiser, as the beer guzzling, butt kicking single and a tag team wrestler. Nick Bockwinkel used to call him the Saloon Goon.
Oh yeah.
So that's the Crusher, and you can see his statue in South Milwaukee, and you can see him along with Bruiser and Gagne in the movie The Wrestler.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that with Ed Asner?
Yeah. Right.
I remember that one. Haven't seen that one in years. Might have to go back to that one.
Yeah.
How about this pair? Synonymous for many years. I mean, you didn't see one name without the other. The Blackjacks, Lanza and Mulligan.
And I'm losing my notes here.
Well, first and foremost, Blackjack Lanza, God, what a great wrestler for many years. And both, the team was managed by pretty boy Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
You couldn't ask for a better manager than that. And Blackjack Mulligan, oh my God, he was super huge, and as a team, they were hated everywhere.
We're going to have to edit this. I lost a page. Wait a minute. Oh, no, I got it. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's just...
Start at the Blackjacks.
Yeah, okay. You want to do that?
Just
Start with the Blackjacks again?
start it right over again?
Yeah.
Okay. And how about this team, Terry? My God, probably the biggest tag team in his promotion, the Blackjacks, Lanza and Mulligan.
Yeah, Lanza and Mulligan, Jack Mulligan, Blackjack Mulligan. Real name is Bob Windham. His legacy will live on. He is the father of Barry Windham, of Kendall Windham, and his daughter married Mike Rotunda, who went on to become IRS. And now Blackjack Mulligan's grandkids are in this crazy game. Bo Dallas, who I don't know if he's still wrestling or not, but then his other grandson is Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. Yeah. So Mulligan from Sweetwater, Texas, he was a Marine.
Yeah.
Trained by Joe Blanchard and Vern Gagne. Spent a year or so in New York City, and he was the first man in New York managed by the Grand Wizard.
Ernie Roth.
Yeah, how about that? And were you present one fateful night in Boston?
Oh, yeah. I was at the WFIA convention. I think this might have been in 1975.
71.
71, was that it? I was there. We had our festivities, and at that time, the hotel that we had it at was connected to the Boston Garden, so it wasn't far for, the wrestlers to go from the hotel to the Garden at all. And this particular day, just before, we're heading over to the matches at the Garden, there was myself, Gorilla Monsoon, Blackjack Mulligan, and Bob Harmon. And we're sitting on a big, long sofa, in the lobby. And right behind us was sort of like the entrance and the driveway to the hotel. And behind us, it was ceiling to floor, wall to wall glass. So we're sitting there, and here comes Ernie Roth. And Ernie Roth comes, and it's like, oh, hi, Ernie. And I was like, hey, come on, sit down. No, sit. No, come on. So I got up, and Ernie Roth sits down, or the Grand Wizard. And as soon as I got up, and now I'm facing them to start talking, here I see a Cadillac coming in this circular driveway at the hotel. And I'm looking, it's like, oh my God, it's a woman driving and some older gal, and she didn't make the turn. And her car hit the glass. Ooh. And it shattered down, just rained down on everybody sitting on that sofa. And I'm horrified. And it's like, everybody just, covered in, glass. Ooh. But Blackjack Mulligan and Gorilla Monsoon took the brunt of it, most of the glass. Ernie Roth, he had a few scratches and stuff. Bob Harmon wasn't that bad. But ambulance took both Mulligan and Gorilla Monsoon to the hospital to get stitched up. And they had easily probably 50 or more stitches from the glass. Uh-huh. But the ironic thing is, they made the show and wrestled that night.
Of course. Now, you're right. That was the Boston story from 1975. There is a second Boston story, though, involving Blackjack Mulligan from 1971. He was wrestling Pedro Morales, who at that time was a champion and basically the supreme being. And again, you've got the ethnic crowd, the heavily Puerto Rican, Spanish crowd in attendance. A fan jumped into the ring and knifed Mulligan on his thigh, I believe.
Right.
He had 100 stitches. And this was relatively early in what was promised to be a stellar run in New York City. And he didn't stay around the New York territory that long. In fact, a couple of months later, he turned up here for the Sheik, wrestling in Detroit.
Yep.
Stayed about exactly a month and was gone. And eventually then, very shortly after, started for Dick the Bruiser in the WWA. So Lanza and Heenan, or Lanza and Mulligan, along with Heenan, were big stars in the AWA. Then with Dick the Bruiser in Indianapolis, and Lanza and Mulligan were together in the New York territory, managed by Lou Albano.
Yeah.
And Mulligan commented in an interview I read, he said, Lanza and I were bad enough, but then you add the craziness from the Grand Wizard and Lou Albano, and that just set people, just really lit them on fire. Really something.
Yeah. How about this guy? Worked for Big Time Wrestling for a while, but then, settled in at the WWA. Sailor Art Thomas.
Oh, yeah, Art Thomas, but the bodybuilder guy. From Madison, Wisconsin. He was a mechanic from Greyhound, joined the Merchant Marine. That's where his first name came from. They called him Seaman Art Thomas. And thankfully, they got rid of that very quickly and changed that to Sailor Art Thomas. His whole thing was, when he first started back in 1961, he would be sitting in the audience during the live TV show, and some bad guy would be doing something nefarious in the ring, and Art Thomas would get up there and he said, "Why, I'll take you on." And eventually one thing worked into another, and he that's the way he got into the business then as a full-time wrestler. Won the WWA title from Baron von Raschke. Just a really, really good guy, and always had those muscles. Always in such good, perfect shape.
Yeah, no doubt about it. How about this pair? Handsome Jimmy and Luscious Johnny Valiant.
Yeah, boy, there's a pair, huh?
Wow, they were a great team. Even though, Lanza and Mulligan, were, the premier team. When they broke up and left, the Valiants took their place, and, just, heat from the crowd just never, died down. Handsome Jimmy, man, the Boogie Woogie man, good friend for many years.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, he could talk a blue streak on that mic, couldn't he?
Yeah,
He can cut a promo.
I remember him when he first started here. He used the name, if I'm not mistaken, Johnny Valen.
John Valen.
Vallen.
Right, Big John Valen.
Big John.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was clean cut, bleached blonde, bodybuilder type physique, and enhancement talent at that point in time.
Yeah.
Didn't much happen for him here initially.
Yeah, but what happened to him when he finally, found his niche?
Yeah.
Boy, and he's still wrestling today.
Yeah,
and he's in his 70s, late 70s.
Oh, I think he's 80 now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, training wrestlers too.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the big thing in Virginia.
Yeah.
That he's got, the Boogie Camp.
Oh, is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
it's called the Boogie Camp. Yeah, training guys and, still going at it. Oh,
I can remember him on WTBS with the Big Mama. Wasn't that her name? Ronnie Garvin and Drag?
yeah.
So what is wrong with this picture? Crazy.
Now, how about this tag team? The Graduates.
Oh, yeah.
Angelo Poffo and Kenny Dillinger.
Kenny Dillinger. And then at one time we had the Devil's Duo with Angelo Poffo and Chris Markoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Dillinger. Was he one of the Hells Angels or the Chain Gang?
I think he was in the Chain Gang with Donnie Fargo.
Okay, yeah.
But when you're with Donnie Fargo, boy, you're walking with the wrong crowd. And they found out a couple of times too.
Angelo Poffo, as we've said many, many times, but still it's pointed out to me that not everybody watches every show. Angelo Poffo is the father of Macho Man Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo,
Leaping Lanny Poffo,
yeah, but great team.
And now we go to, what about this Japanese wrestler? God, he's a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Mitsu Arakawa.
Yeah, and he was back and forth between the Sheik and Bruiser for quite some time, and he lived in Indianapolis. But as often as not, he was concentrated in Michigan, Ohio for the Sheik. But he did his thing in Indianapolis quite often, and the reason he's on this list is because he appeared more than once at Olympia.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a good guy. One of the interesting things about Japanese wrestling is a lot of times when they get a young boy, one of the somebody they see superstar potential in who's breaking in, they want to send him on the road to get experience away from the Japanese crowds. Get him away, have the Japanese people forget about him for a little while. They send him over to the United States. They send him to a good promotion, and then he's paired with someone, a veteran who can teach him the way of the road, the way of the ring, and that's what Mitsu did it with Kochika, did it with Yoshino Sato, and a few others too along the road.
Great mentor,
a
great guy in the ring and outside the ring, just a friendly, nice guy.
Yeah.
And how about this guy, the Wild Man, Dave McKegney?
The Wild Man, sure. Yeah, the Bear Man, also called the Bear Man, perhaps as well known for anything else as the guy who would take the bear in to take on all comers. If the bear was willing to do anything, sometimes the bear wasn't willing to do very much. But they would challenge people out of the crowd. But the Wild Man always had a sort of a Pompero Firpo look to him, pretty much disheveled, and ran around with Willie Farkas, the Wolf
Man.
They were quite a good tag team combination.
I think the Wild Man, Dave McKegney, was the only one who can understand the Wolf Man.
And the Wild Man, perhaps even of more relevance to you, was the father of Raquel Dubois.
Yeah, Rachel. Wow.
Rachel, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bob Finnegan's one-time squeeze. Oh, she was a beauty.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What a nice woman, too. Got to know her, in years later. And the odd thing about Rachel was, she worked on, some of these shows, too, is that, she worked for Bell Canada at the same time I was working for Michigan Bell here in the States.
Wow.
So we got to talking about, our time, working for the Bell system, and that's where, we made more money than we did in wrestling.
Yeah.
How about this guy? Billy Red Cloud.
Billy Red Cloud. Yeah. All I know about him is that he was around for a long, long time. He was considered a real veteran. I don't know that much about him, though. Do you?
No, not much. Great wrestler.
Yeah.
Had the, good Indian look, and I think he might have been of Indian descent.
I think he was, yeah. Wasn't it Heenan who tore up his headdress?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that resulted in chain matches galore across the country.
Oh, Billy Red Cloud and Bobby Heenan, they wrestled, a lot.
Yeah.
Heenan, he's known as a manager, but he made his money and, really made, a lot of, great matches as a wrestler.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
Big, I wouldn't say a high flyer, but boy, can he take bumps.
Oh, yeah.
And he can make a, guy, look like $1 million in the ring.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think of the thing that he said. You wrestle like a manager, but manage like a wrestler. I think that was his saying. Great talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but I think you might have confused the next guy I'm going to bring up,
Okay.
Bobby Bold Eagle.
There you go. Yeah. He was Bob Boyer is
Yep.
his name, and he wrestled under that name. Reasonably successful in Texas and San Francisco. Smaller guy, though.
Yep.
And we're talking in the 70s here, the days where the smaller guys usually were not the ones on the main events making the big money. Those were usually the biggest, heaviest guys. But he was a good wrestler, fast wrestler, scientific, and like I say, wrestled in a lot of the different territories around the country.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about this guy?
BVR.
The Baron von Raschke.
And that's all you need to know.
Yeah. Well, I remember, when he first started, I think he was trained in the AWA, maybe by Vern, because he had a great
student.
Yeah, he had a great collegiate background, and they sent him to Detroit here, where he really made a name for himself in the mid '60s.
Yeah, the German thing, the evil German thing, and some of them would dress not this late, not into the 70s, but a decade or two earlier would do the Heil Hitler salute and have the Iron Cross and things like that. And it was harkened back to the days when Germany scared the heck out of everybody. And so there was just built-in heat with German wrestlers, Russian wrestlers who I'm sure will proliferate here again over the next few weeks.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Months. But, yeah, Baron was a great wrestler, but he was also a sneaky bad guy.
Yeah, but boy, he was great.
Knew his stuff, yeah.
How about this guy? Wrestled in big time wrestling also, but Cowboy Bob Ellis.
Yeah, I think that one of the most important things to note about Cowboy Bob Ellis is that at the time of this particular recording in 2022, Bob Ellis is still alive, and I think is the oldest living wrestler.
That very well could be.
Into his 90s, well into his 90s.
Yeah, because only a few years back, it would have been Angelo Savoldi, because I think he was 101, but Cowboy Bob Ellis could probably be right up there.
Tony Marino was up there too.
Yeah.
Because there's just not that many at all that get much above 80, the 80 point. But Cowboy Bob Ellis, I can remember him so vividly when I was a kid because he wrestled all around Cincinnati, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana for years when a lot of the guys didn't just stay in one territory, but they wrestled throughout Ohio, throughout Michigan, which might have been divided up into several territories at that point in time. But what a great wrestler he was. Outstanding wrestler.
Yeah, but I would say would you say that he was the best, gimmick cowboy wrestler of all time?
With apologies to Tex McKenzie,
Yeah, but wrestling-wise,
wrestling-wise,
Tex he was a little bit of an oaf in the ring, and everybody knows that. But Tex McKenzie had a great career for a lot of years. But as far as the cowboy gimmick, Bob Ellis, tremendous.
Yeah, he looked the part and great interviews and all these bloody matches and feuds he would have with Bruiser and Sheik and. Just all over the country.
Yeah, well, that was the thing about Bob Ellis. He had so much scar tissue from all the years of blading and stuff that, I mean, if he sneezed at the beginning of the bout, he would bleed. Another great, Bruno Sammartino.
Who? Oh, yeah, of course. What can we say about Bruno? Bruno, in between his stints as WWF champion. He sort of went off on his own, did his own thing, wrestled a lot for the Tunnies in Toronto, and also did what he wanted, went where he chose to go, and one of those places was for Bruiser. It was sort of an easy schedule as compared to New York, where he wasn't on the road, wrestling 8 or 9 times a week, including television tapings during the day. But he got Indianapolis, where he could sort of go into the big cities, and that was it. Make the big money and go home.
Yeah, I mean, legend, legend, who we lost not long ago, too.
Yeah.
How about this guy? Moose Cholak.
Golden Moose.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite a piece of work. Used to wear the moose
head.
Yeah.
There was times I remember guys telling stories. This is back in the old days. He'd put that moose head on and he'd try to get into the ring. And as soon as, he'd try to get in through the ropes, and then the moose head they said it weighed like 40, 50 pounds. It would just take him away.
But he was a good guy. He made he was a huge man in his day, 6'5". At one point in time, he was very svelte, very reasonably thin, maybe 250-ish. But after that, it was all. And he ended his career. He worked for us in Bruiser Bedlam also, and was easily 450.
Yeah.
Toward the end of his career, ran a bar, was pretty successful with that in Chicago.
But most of the boys who worked against him, oh boy, they said, talk about stiff, and that guy can hurt you.
Yeah.
Cholak wasn't the smoothest guy in the ring. There ain't no doubt about that. Guys just hated. They'd see their name going against him. It's like, oh God, I'm going to hurt for the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
Here's another guy, really big in California. Made his name there, but came into for Bruiser's promotion. Pepper Gomez.
Yeah, I remember him here. Very, like you say, very nice guy, but he wasn't here very long. I think he was in between territories. A lot of times somebody would spend 6 months in one territory and then be scheduled to start in another territory for 6 months, but they had a 2 or 3 week window in between. They'd take some matches near their home or wherever they happened to be. And I think that's what Pepper was around here. It always amazed me because he was a bona fide main eventer in San Francisco for a long, long time.
Yep.
You think of San Francisco, the wrestling fans will think of Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson. Well, believe me, Pepper Gomez was right up there with them.
Yep.
And as you said, that's where he was most successful there and in Indiana.
Yep.
With Bruiser.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, talking about a guy who, went to the beat of his own drum, this next guy, the big cat, number 99.
Oh,
Ernie Ladd.
Just all sorts of admiration for Ernie Ladd, respect for that guy. Big number 99, a tremendous guy, a tremendous locker room leader, somebody not to be trifled with. You're not going to mess with Ernie Ladd. He was pretty laid back, but boy, if he would get set off, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out. One of the best interviews of all time, Mr. TV announcer. And called Wahoo McDaniel that cheap cigar store Indian. And I saw Wahoo McDaniel out there drinking cheap whiskey. And, he was just so good wherever he went. And he was at a level where he could pick and choose where he wanted to go. He'd go to a territory. They didn't treat him well, or he didn't make the money he thought he made. No big deal.
Yeah.
He'll go somewhere else.
And it was the same thing here. He worked big time wrestling for the Sheik, and he was worked the main event against the Sheik, and like a few weeks later, he's in working for Bruiser's territory.
And he was one of the few Bruiser people who came back to Sheik when that whole thing ended. There were not very many at all.
Right.
Heenan made a couple of shots. People like Bold Eagle and Gomez maybe made a couple of shots down in Dayton. But other than that, the Sheik didn't bring in any of the other, unless I'm forgetting, didn't bring any of the other Bruiser talent in.
Yeah. And now, a lot of the, guys that, he had, the lesser guys, the mid-card guys, let's talk about them now. Bull Belinsky.
He was a truck driver.
Yeah. And, another beer guzzling kind of guy.
Yeah.
He was fun, fun to watch.
Common man.
Yep.
Yep, people liked him.
Yep.
Mid Carter. I don't know that much about him. When Bruiser's tapes were on, I was living up in Lansing, and we didn't get Channel 9, so I didn't often get to watch these.
Yeah. Hey, good fun to watch.
Yeah.
Now, how about this guy? He started here, for Sheik's Big Time Wrestling. Prince Pullins.
Oh, what a athlete he was.
Yeah.
And, one of those guys, I think if you were to ask any 10 people from this era, who is a wrestler that you really think should have cracked through to the big time and didn't? And I bet you 9 out of 10 would say Prince Pullins.
Yeah. Prince Pullins, he was that, he was that Chris Colt kind of guy.
Yeah.
He had it all, but he just never got the push from anybody.
No.
A great talent.
Yeah.
I always liked watching him.
He wasn't that big, and I think that may have hurt him, but there may have been other issues as well. But yeah, just a tremendous, tremendous guy.
Now, how about this guy? Wrestled a few times, more gimmick matches and stuff, but was a great wrestler back in the 40s and 50s, but was mainly known as the commentator for WWA. Sam Menaker.
Slammin' Sammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a movie star also.
Yeah.
A lot, at least a couple of movies. Yeah, he was quite the announcer. Usually, always managed to get involved, and always one stooging off to the referee about one thing or another. But yeah, Sammy was a good wrestler. Did his job very, very well. Very active behind the scenes, helping put together matches. And after Bruiser gave up Channel 9 or lost Channel 9 here, whatever it was, I lost track of Sam Menaker, and I wondered whatever happened to him. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I was watching some tapes from Joe Blanchard's Southwest Wrestling down in San Antonio, and who do you think was the ring announcer?
Really?
It was Sam Menaker. Yeah, so he went down, worked for Joe Blanchard down in San Antonio for a while, and that was right after he left here.
I think Sam Menaker also was an announcer for Calgary,
right,
at one point in time.
Allegedly stole a plane to leave Calgary and get to his next stop on his route.
Yeah, there's so many stories about Sammy. He was a character for sure.
Yeah, I never met him. Wish I could have.
Yeah. Now, how about this guy? Cowboy Parker.
Cowboy Parker, yeah. Mr. Skull Brother number 2.
Yeah. Ray Elmore.
Ray Elmore, yeah.
Wrecking Crew number 2.
Yep. Yeah, the Gimmick a Month Club.
Yeah.
He was a good wrestler. Nothing wrong with his wrestling. Was he a Klein student?
I don't think so. We'd have to ask Mickey Doyle that, but I don't think he was a Klein guy.
He didn't like me very much. I'll tell you the story pretty quickly. Tanya West.
Yeah.
Went on to become, what was her name down in Texas? We talked about her on this show. Stella Mae French.
Yep.
But before she was Stella Mae French in Texas on World Class, she was Tanya West. She was a larger female, very good looking, but she started dating the cowboy, Cowboy Parker.
Yep.
And I used to talk to Tanya a lot before the matches would start. We just sit out, and a lot of times we just make fun of people and, laugh and laugh and laugh. And one day, here they come. It was Cincinnati. I walked in, and there the two of them are sitting in the seats there before the fans were let in. And Parker's got his cowboy deal and his little hat and his string tie and his fringe and everything. And Tanya's dressed identical.
Oh, geez.
And I said, "What are you? What are you, little Annie Oakley?"
Oh.
And he looks at me, and he got red in the face. He says, "You can't say anything nice at all. Don't say anything."
Oh.
I looked at her, and she, okay.
Got heat with the cowboy.
Yeah, a little heat with the cowboy. He's going to rustle me up some grub.
Now, here's a good friend of ours. Worked all over the place. Louis Martinez.
You talk about Louis.
Oh, God, I could tell so many stories about Louis.
We've done a whole show on him.
Yeah, we did the show on him. I've got stuff coming up in our future episodes of Dressing Room Confidential, some more Louis stories. Yeah. But what a sweetheart of a guy. Yeah. Worked big time wrestling, worked over at the Olympia, back and forth. But, Louis, great talent. And, the fans loved him everywhere,
Legitimately, always a smile on his face, very, very positive kind of a guy.
Yep.
Ricky Cortez, he's one of your faves.
Yeah. I ended up managing Ricky Cortez. He scared the heck out of me when I was a little kid at 10 years old. Oh, yeah, he was another crossover, another one of the Sheik guys going over to the competition. So great guy, too. Another guy, I got to know this guy later in his career. Such a nice man, Paul Christie.
Yeah, I remember him from watching him on television in the Sheik's matches, but I never met him. I know his wife was with him at ringside, Miss Bunny.
Bunny Love.
Bunny Love.
Yep.
And he passed away just recently.
Yeah, not too long ago. Yeah. What a wonderful man.
Good-looking guy, nice physique. And,
and a great talent in the ring.
Yeah.
Really good ring talent. And we already mentioned Rachel Dubois. Yeah. Some of the girls that were on his show. Another crossover, Mary Jane Moe.
Oh, yeah, Mary Jane. Mary Jane against Lucille Dupre was the match which was probably seen second most at the Cobo Arena, right behind the Sheik and Bobo Brazil.
Exactly.
If it's Lucille and Mary Jane. Well, they both lived in Detroit, and back at that time, women's wrestling was sort of an afterthought. Oh, well, what can we do? We'll put on a women's match. What are we going to get? Well, let's just get Lucille and Mary Jane for the 19,000th time. But they were old-timers. They were old school. They were tough as nails. You didn't want to cross them. They knew what they were doing, and they always gave good matches.
Yeah. And Mary Jane was the crossover. Lucille never went over.
No, she didn't. That's right. Yeah.
And then we had Dawn Lemke. We talked about her on the women's show before. Beautiful lady, great in-ring talent. Worked for Bruiser. Then went down to Florida. Worked for Dusty Rhodes down there. And got out of wrestling early. She wasn't one of those long timers like Marva Scott and Betty Nicolai and Kay Noble that wrestled for many years. Dawn, in and out. And it was hard for women to make money and to wrestle, and it's like
beat up your body every night.
Yep.
You can't blame them.
How about this guy? Little gimmick kind of thing. Super Brucey.
I don't know him.
I don't know him either. I only saw him once, I think, as it was on the first Bruiser show, that it was a Dick the Bruiser gimmick to bring in a guy dressed in like a Superman outfit and, looked terribly out of shape, to, go against Bobby Heenan. So it would be a mixed tag team match, Bruiser and Super Brucey versus, maybe Blackjack Lanza and, Bobby Heenan. So it all came down to, Super Brucey, embarrassing, Bobby Heenan in some way or another.
Sure.
Another crossover guy, Eric the Red.
Now, I never knew Eric the Red worked for Bruiser.
Yeah, not a long time, but toward the end of the promotion's, run. Yeah. He went in, for a few shots.
He was sometimes known as the Great Dane, Danish background, had the big mop of red hair and the red beard. Big guy, had to be 6'5" or 6.
Yep.
325, something like that. Had the big furry boots like Bruiser Brody. Carried the big bone around the ring. Used to chase a certain ring announcer out of the ring every single night.
Yep.
But yeah, a good guy.
Oh, really good guy. Yeah, great in-ring talent. And a great athlete. You wouldn't think a guy that big, would be a great athlete.
Yeah.
But in another show, I've got a good story about Eric the Red and, how athletic he was.
And he wrestled for the IWA for a while, too, didn't he?
Yes, Eddie Einhorn's promotion.
With
yeah.
Igor and
and George Cannon managed him at one time.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Another guy, Mark Manson.
Yeah, I've seen him. I never knew quite what to make with him, though. I've only seen him once or twice.
Yeah, the only thing I can remember about him is like he was who was the nut job killer out in California?
Killer Buddy Aust? Oh
no, a Manson.
Yeah,
What was his name? They did a movie, Charles Manson. There you go, a voice from beyond.
Manson fans.
There's
Marilyn in the background.
Yeah, he did like a Charles Manson kind of gimmick. Long hair, unkept.
Oh yeah. Did
like
he do the graduate? Wear the graduate?
Yeah. Later on, he did. Yeah. Another guy that came in, the former WWF champion that dethroned Bruno. Ivan Koloff.
Oh, yeah. Just one of the best of all time. The fact that he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame, having held their title, is odd, but then that's a whole Vince McMahon thing.
Yeah, and, even though he was known as the Mad Russian, he's really Canadian.
Right, yeah,
and I think when he started out as Red McNulty, wrestling.
Yeah.
He switched over to the Russian gimmick.
But then he had such a successful career going on in WCW with Nikita Koloff and with Crusher Khrushchev and singles matches with Dusty and all these different people. He had a heck of a good career. Long career.
And from that promotion, besides the wrestlers, we have to bring up these two guys who were instrumental in bringing Dick the Bruiser's promotion to Olympia Stadium and supporting it for those number of years. Lou Marutis and Lincoln Cavallari. They were behind-the-scenes kind of guys, the promoters in a way, but they also, even though they worked for the Olympia Stadium, they were heavily involved with the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh,
yeah, because the Red Wings played at the Olympia Stadium back then.
That's right. Yeah.
And the one guy we mentioned a couple times here, but probably the biggest thing that hit his promotion and drew fans and heat everywhere he went. But Bobby Heenan, we could talk about him till our tongues are blue.
Yeah.
But you've got a few Bobby Heenan sayings that we want you folks to hear.
Yeah.
If there's any way we can honor Bobby, it's like this would be the way.
Yeah, Bobby was just the consummate all-around performer. He could do it all. He was a really good wrestler. He claims to have never been formally taught to wrestle. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, that's just another feather in his cap because he could, he was a wonderful color commentator, a comedian, and probably one of the best managers of all times. He and Gorilla Monsoon together were just gold. Just absolute gold. No doubt about it. Humor
me in a way. I think I saw your notes earlier. Do you have a few Bobby Heenan sayings that you can relate to the fans here?
Well, that would have been what I was around here to find. I do, and just in tribute to a great man, Bobby Heenan, let's just go back and remember one more time the wit and wisdom of Bobby Heenan. For example, a friend in need is a pest. They say money can't buy happiness. Well, give me $50 and watch me smile. I know all about cheating. I've had 6 very successful marriages. I once asked him what came at the end of the sentence, and he said, parole.
Oh, God.
I think that is it. We have more fun and frivolity, hilarity, and
Bobby
humor.
was a laugh a minute.
Yeah, Bobby. There'll never be another one like him, sadly.
Yeah. just like so many other, greats. And these were the guys that worked for the Olympia Stadium Dick the Bruiser promotion. I think, we needed to honor these guys on a Big Time Memories episode.
And we're going to do the same thing for the Big Time Wrestling Stars as well here coming up pretty soon.
Yeah. Let me pick, as customary, we go with a little outro introducing one of the guys. Let me pick
Super
a guy. Do you know where he's from?
No.
Do you know what he weighed?
I don't have any idea.
No, let's go out with, how about Cowboy Bob Ellis?
Cowboy Bob Ellis. I don't know where he's from.
I thought he was from
Texas.
Phoenix, Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that's what they announced him as.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Phoenix, Arizona, weighing 260 pounds, here he is, Cowboy Bob Ellis.